This is CNN, the most trusted name in news. I can't even say that with a straight face. Anyway, back on January 21st, CNN published a piece about the incoming Biden administration. Newly sworn in President Joe Biden and his advisors are inheriting no coronavirus vaccine distribution plan to speak of from the Trump administration, posing a significant challenge for the new White House. Another source described the moment it became clear that the Biden administration would have to essentially start from square one because there simply was no plan as, wow, just further affirmation of complete incompetence. There is nothing for us to rework. We are going to have to build everything from scratch. And of course, the story was fake news. I know you're shocked. Because just hours after CNN put out the piece, Dr. Anthony Fauci was asked about it at a White House press briefing.
Is the Biden administration starting from scratch with the vaccine distribution effort, or are you picking up where the Trump administration left off?
No, I mean, we certainly are not starting from scratch because there is activity going on in the distribution. We're coming in with fresh ideas, but also some ideas that were not bad ideas with the previous administration. You can't say it was absolutely not usable at all. So we are continuing, but you're going to see a real ramping up of it.
In other words, it's not that there wasn't a plan, it's just that the Biden administration wanted to say that there wasn't one to make Trump look incompetent. Of course. And they wouldn't let this fake narrative go, because 3 days later, on Meet the Press, President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, said the same thing.
The process to distribute the vaccine, particularly outside of nursing homes and hospitals, out into the community as a whole, did not really exist when we came into the White House.
This is a huge lie. Ron Klain is a liar. First, the CDC put out the COVID-19 vaccination program interim playbook for jurisdiction operations back in September. This playbook covered everything from vaccine allocation to vaccination provider training. Furthermore, the Department of Defense and Department of Health and Human Services released their vaccine distribution plan to the public back in September 2020. And then on December 11th, the FDA approved the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for emergency use. It started being shipped out on December 13th, and on December 14th, Americans had been given 193,000 doses. Not bad for a first day. And according to HHS, within 18 days of the first shipments, nearly 20 million doses had been allocated. So how do you allocate 20 million doses of a vaccine in 18 days without a plan? Maybe it was magic or something. Of course, in reality, it's a bald-faced lie to say that there wasn't a plan. And even PolitiFact had to admit that Biden's chief of staff was mostly false. And because the truth doesn't matter to these people, Vice President Kamala Harris not only repeated the same claim in an interview with Axios, but went even further.
So we're looking at this, there was no national strategy or plan for vaccinations. In many ways, we're starting from scratch.
So even though Vice President Harris also lied about starting from scratch, PolitiFact was silent on the matter. God forbid fact-checking the first black woman vice president, you might be canceled. And if PolitiFact actually wanted to do their job, they could have called Harris out on this statement.
There was no stockpile, right? It's, in many ways...
No stockpile
of vaccines, right?
Wrong. There was a stockpile. Initially, the Trump administration held back enough supply to guarantee that states would be able to distribute the second dose to Americans. And according to General Gustav Perna, the chief operations officer for Operation Warp Speed, the stockpile contained 500,000 doses. On January 8th, Joe Biden announced that he planned to take what was in the stockpile and send it to speed inoculations. But 4 days later, the Trump administration beat them to it and reversed their stance on holding back second shots of the vaccine. Basically, once they had confidence in Pfizer and Moderna's supply chain, they released whatever was in the reserves and sent it all out. And if enough is being manufactured, there's no reason for it to be sitting in a warehouse freezer when it can be going into somebody's arm. But Kamala Harris says there was no stockpile, like there was actually supposed to be one, as if she wasn't surprised that there wasn't one, and even though Biden was going to immediately deplete it even if there was one.
There was no stockpile.
And that brings us to President Biden, who has promised to give it to Americans straight from the shoulder and tell the truth.
When I became president 3 weeks ago, America had no plan to vaccinate most of the country.
What we did, we got into office and found out the supply, there was no backlog. I mean, there was nothing in the refrigerator, figuratively and literally speaking.
Again, Biden knew this before he took office, but the truth doesn't matter to fit his narrative of Orange Man bad, I guess.
My predecessor, to be very blunt about it, did not do his job in getting ready for the massive challenge of vaccinating hundreds of millions of Americans. He didn't order enough vaccines.
Is that true? Was Trump so stupid that he launched and spent billions of dollars in Operation Warp Speed to get vaccines made and then didn't bother to buy enough? Really? Well, let's look at some stats. According to the Government Accountability Office, the Trump administration had at least 800 million vaccine doses under contract expected to be delivered by July 31st, pending any issues with clinical trials, EUA issuance, and other factors. This includes the purchase of 200 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine and 200 million doses of the Moderna vaccine. That's a total of 400 million doses to vaccinate 200 million Americans aged 16 and up. But then on February 11th, the Biden administration announced that they had bought 100 million more doses of each vaccine, bringing the total to 600 million doses. But that's not quite what he said during his CNN town hall.
We've moved out, went to the Pfizer and Moderna and said, can you produce more vaccine and more rapidly? They not only agreed to go from 200 to 400, then they've agreed to go to 600 million doses.
Biden is making it sound like Trump was so incompetent that he only ordered 200 million doses total. And then Biden swooped in and negotiated to 400 million and then 600 million, when in fact, he only ordered 100 million more from each company.
That means we're now on track to have enough supply for 300 million Americans.
Now, there's just one slight issue, Joe. There aren't 300 million Americans to give the vaccine to. Let me explain. The population of the United States is 330 million. Of that 330 million, there are over 66.2 million children under the age of 16, and they can't be given the vaccine. That means there are less than 264 million Americans that are eligible to take a vaccine.
If we get the majority of Americans, 70 to 85% vaccinated by then, we could have a degree of herd immunity that would get us back to normal.
So if you vaccinated 70% of the 263.7 million Americans who are eligible, that totals 184.6 million. And on February 22nd, Johnson & Johnson said it is on track to deliver 20 million doses of its vaccine by the end of March and is guaranteed to meet its government contract to supply 100 million doses by the end of June. And since the J&J vaccine is single dose, that means that yes, President Trump ordered more than enough vaccines to give to anyone that wants it. You mean the Democrats were lying? And technically, even before the J&J announcement, Joe Biden purchased at least 36 million more doses than he actually needed at the time. Because again, there weren't 300 million Americans to give the vaccine to. And it's wishful thinking if you believe that every single one of those 264 million Americans will actually take the vaccine.
The concern I have, and something we're working on, is getting people who have vaccine hesitancy who don't want to get vaccinated, because many people are skeptical about that. So we really need to do a lot of good outreach for that.
Vaccine hesitancy? Gee, I wonder why Americans would be so hesitant about taking a vaccine.
So let me be clear. I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either.
For a vaccine to work, though, to be effective, you do need a certain amount of the population to be willing to take it. You're saying, don't trust the president, trust me if I'm elected. Are you confident that enough Americans will buy in?
Trust the scientists. One thing for Donald Trump to say, the vaccine is safe. What did you base that decision on? What did you do? Did you pressure the head of the FDA? Did you pressure whomever? I'm not saying he would or will.
Think about what he's saying here. He's putting it in people's heads before an election that President Trump could possibly put pressure on the FDA to get the vaccine approved.
One thing is certain, we can't allow politics to interfere with the vaccine in any way.
Says the man who just made it political. Great job, genius. And of course, let's not forget this classic moment.
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
And yet, people are surprised for some reason that a third of US adults say that they probably won't or definitely won't take it. But that's what you get when you play a stupid game of Orange Man Vaccine Bad. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, sharing, and slamming that like button. Follow me on Twitter at Don't Walk Run and on Instagram at Don't Walk Run Productions. A special thanks to Poofy for all of her help this week with the script, and you can follow her at Saint Tsundere on Twitter as well. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next time. If there is next time.